On today's episode of the Jazz Morphology Matrix, we are going to talk about one-handed voicings. There we go. Now, why would you need to know your one-handed voicings if you're a jazz pianist? Well, there's just two main situations, okay? So either you're comping for yourself while you're soloing, or you're comping in your right hand while your left hand is doing some walking bass or something, right? Or half note bass, whatever, doing bass, yeah? And so those are really the two main situations, and they're important, right? You want to know how to do this, especially if you're playing solo piano and you're doing this all on your own. Maybe if you're playing in a band and you're soloing, maybe you don't even need a left hand. Just have the guitarist or someone else take over the comping. But I think you should learn your one-handed voicings, okay? Now, why don't we scroll down to the more detailed chart here. Okay, there's really not much more when it comes to one-handed voicings. All right, so we have our rooted voicings, our bass shells, and our rootless voicings. Now, before I even jump into this, rootless voicings, oh my goodness, one of the most annoying topics today. Okay, this is about to become a venting session. But before I even get in, I just want to say rootless voicings have become there's so many misconceptions around rootless voicings these days. And I'm so excited to address those and really dig into it. So if you have heard some misconceptions, or maybe you just hear about rootless voicing so often, or maybe people are telling you you're not allowed to play a root note, so you must always do rootless voicings when you're comping, please stick around, okay? We need to get rid of these misconceptions and make some music, all right? So before we even get into one-handed voicings, though, let's look at what they're based on. So they're based on shells. You really need to know your shells, both type A and type B. And what are shells? Well, they're just essential tones. That's all. And what are essential tones? Just the third and the seventh. Okay, so let's say, for example, you have C major. Okay, let me play the whole chord here. So the third and the seventh are E and B. And then we have two types of shells. We have type A and type B. So type A just means that the third is in the bottom, which I'm currently playing. Type B means the seventh is in the bottom. That's all there is to it. And now you know your type A and type B shells. And now whenever you hear about type A or type B voicings, you'll know what it refers to. And this is usually the case when we talk about one-handed voicings. Okay, let's bring things back over here. Now, your rooted voicings. Well, I might actually take that back. You might not even need to know your essential tones for rooted voicings, okay? But especially when you start to take out the root or when you start to do bass shells, then yeah, you're gonna need to know your essential tones. Because rooted voicings, let's say C major 7, you just slap it down. There's really no need for thinking. I've had so many students come to me and they know their rooted voicings, but I ask them to play just the essential tones, and then they start hunting. They start hunting for those thirds and sevenths as if they've never played the chord before. It's quite an interesting thing to observe that even though you can play all of your, let's say major sevens as an example, in root position, that might not mean you actually know the essential tones really well. So test yourself. Now, rooted voicings. The answer to the question you haven't asked yet is, or maybe you thought it, is yes, we do use rooted voicings in jazz all the time. And you could go throughout history and transcribe a bunch of solos. You'll see that everyone is using root notes, okay? Now, when would you use it? Well, let's say F minor 7. There's a transcription of Errol Garner playing Misty somewhere on YouTube, where he just plays F minor 7 like this for like a full bar. Straight up. Okay. Well, Bill Evans loves this voicing, and so do I, for C major, F major, G major. This is beautiful. Oh my goodness, I love this sound. This minor second in there, beautiful. And so using the root comes down to two things, either for color, like here, or range. So when you're in this middle-ish range, rooted voicings work just fine. Like E flat major, right? Got our F major, sounds great here. Right? So yeah, throw in those roots, and then maybe you can have some fun with extensions. Add the 9 in there, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, nothing wrong with root position chords. But and even inversions of them, you know, like if you want to do your C minor like this, sure, go for it. It's fine. You're not going to make or break history because of your rooted or because of your one-handed voicings, okay? It's really not that important. Next, let's talk about bass shells. Well, we know what a shell is now, right? It's the essential tones played together, and we get a shell. And bass shell just means you add a root note to it. So let's say we have C major 7th. If we add a root note to it, now we get a bass shell. You do it like this. You could also do it like this. So this is a 3-note bass shell. There's really not much else to it. Let's say you have G7. You do it like this. You know, personally, I probably wouldn't do this because now that G is not acting as a bass note anymore, okay? We want to separate the bass from the rest of the notes. So these are your 3-note bass shells. This is D minor 7. Then you can, you know, do like a stride kind of thing and grab it. But generally, you're gonna be doing something like this. Now, 2-note bass shells is just a root note, or 2-note bass shells. It's just a root note and one of the essential tones. So for like a 2-5-1, the key is C, you have D minor. You could do this for D minor, just the 1 to flat 3, and then G7, oops, and then C major. There you go. You could also do it like this. Personally, I think that root note's pretty high. I might not do that, like, ever. Especially if I'm comping for myself, maybe in a different context. And then there's another type of 3-note bass shell. So when you're down low here, well, this is 2-note. But you can't do the 7th here. Just listen to that. Yeah, way too muddy. No one's really doing this. But you can definitely add the 5th. Right? This is a great sound. So down low, I start incorporating the 5th instead of the 7th. You know, D flat major, or D minor, D minor for sure. I'm not doing this. I mean, I'm sure someone out there is doing this. I'm not saying don't ever do it, but for me, I don't see a reason to. It's way too muddy. It's just not a clear sound. The essential tones aren't as effective, you know, beyond a certain range. Generally, that range for me, and this is for me, and from what I've seen in my studies and transcribing, where's my pedal? Oh, there it is. Is, let's say, E flat. E flat major, I like the 7th there, but D, no. That's when I drop the 7th, okay? So, no major 7th there. But when it comes to minor, same thing. I mean, I'll do this sometimes, but generally, your safe bet is D. Yeah, so I guess D is kind of my range, but it's these two. I will do like this for A7. You know, Herbie Hancock's doing this whole lot. This kind of lower sound dominant chords down to A. But anyways, it's kind of a general thing of how low you can go. How high you can go, it really depends, okay? But you can take it all the way up if you want. But generally, if I'm playing C major, like, with the roots, I'll do this. But when you start getting higher, you start getting in the way of the right hand. So unless you're just up here for a long extended period of time, then usually you're hanging around this range. Keep it around G. That's just a general thing. Bill Evans does this a whole lot. And I forgot which recording, but I was just transcribing something. But yeah, he's doing this for F altered a lot. Up here. Okay, anyways, we were talking about the bass shells and talking about the range, right? When you can consider when not to play an essential tone. Okay, that's about it. And well, let's look at some examples, right? So if I'm improvising and I'm down low, maybe, you know. Right. Then yeah, I'm gonna opt for this lower stuff. If I'm up higher, you know. Hang around here, right? Yeah. So keep that in mind. It's going to be super useful as you navigate up and down the keyboard to know all these different ways and configurations of playing it. Okay, let's move on here. Finally, rootless voicings. So as I was mentioning earlier, you are not limited to only rootless voicings when you're comping, okay? And if you don't want to take it from me, you know, then just look at all of Bill Evans playing. There's also a video of Barry Harris where he says that no bassist has ever called him out for playing roots in his left hand, okay? Now, what should you not do? Well, you probably shouldn't just play a root note down low and hold it there, right? So don't do that. Especially like don't do octaves and hold them or something. But out of having a root in your left hand voicing, totally fine. Literally even in the bass, all right? Even if you do this, that's fine because you're just kind of stabbing them. So anyways, let's jump into rootless voicings. Type A and type B. A lot of people are going to get hung up on all the different configurations and all the possibilities of rootless voicings. But remember, most of us are here to make music. So you need to just learn enough so that you have something to do in that left hand to support you while you're soloing, or just enough for your right hand to comp while your left hand's doing bass. Okay, so let's start with major chords. C major, type A. So we go to the ninth usually for our rootless voicings, okay? There we go. You could just see it stacked from the root up to the ninth. So there you go, C major 9. And these are your different configurations. Instead of fifth, you could do the sixth. Or you could do this one, no 7. Now it's just C 6 9. Great sound. Personally, I love this one, even with no 7, just because of that, the sound of that fifth is really grounding. Right? It's very homey. This is a little bit more floaty, right? Especially by itself, you know, it's a little bit more ambiguous. But here in that fifth, but that's just my personal opinions. Now, just play them all, okay? Totally fine. But the stock ways are like your 4-note voicings, okay? See, that's another name. I've been using 4-note voicing instead of rootless voicing because I feel that in the past, whenever I tell my students to just play rootless voicings, they think that means only rootless voicings. But a better name is, you know, your left hand voicings maybe. But I didn't like that because you use the same voicings for the right hand too. So I guess one-handed voicing or 4-note voicing. Okay, one-handed, whatever, okay? I'm just gonna stop using rootless voicings because it's more than just that. Anyway, C major, type A, type B, my favorites, with the 7th and the roots next to each other. I've been almost doing this exclusively lately, but here's your type B rootless, okay? Because yeah, this is not rootless, what am I saying? But here's the rootless. It's just the same notes inverted, boom, you're done. And you could exchange the 5th for a 6th. Or you could exchange the 7th for a 6th. And some of you, some of you may already be thinking, oh my goodness, there's all those different ways to do the major chord. If it's too much, pick one, your favorite one, stick to it. Don't even worry about all the configuration. It does not matter. Nobody cares. We're here to make music. And a big part of that is just getting the left hand with some functional skills so that your right hand can solo, okay? We're not here trying to, you know, figure out every possible thing. We just need something, okay? So just pick one. Just do this for the next year or 2 or 5. And if you want to do type B, just do this, okay? Done. Don't even think about anything else. Whatever. Okay, let's move on. Minor chords. Let's say you have C minor, okay? So stack it up to the 9th, boom. It's basically just E flat major, 7th, and then the inversion, type B. So for minor, you don't have like those kind of different configurations as you do with major. There's not much else you can really do. That's really it for minor 7th, at least. And you're kind of done. Okay? Now, if you want to get crazy with this, sure, like add an 11, but this is not really stock anymore, okay? Just learn the stock ones. But that's basically just like E flat major 9, yeah? Just like we talked about earlier. Put all that over C. Yeah, it sounds great, but don't overwhelm yourself. Learn the stock stuff and move on. Next, minor 6. Okay, you're gonna need to know this. So don't play the flat 7, just exchange it for the 6. You're done. That's it. The inversion. Okay, there you go. And for this one, oh, and for all of them, there's inversions outside of the type A and type B. Because it has 4 notes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. That means there's 4 inversions. There's this, here's this position, there's this, and then this. Do you need to go drill all of these? No, don't do that. Okay, maybe not at first. If you can't already play through a bunch of tunes, do not sit there trying to figure out all the configurations. Okay, that's like trying to figure out every possible chess move and combination before you even go play a chess game. That's not how it works. Play a bunch of songs, play a bunch of tunes, and then maybe after 20, 30 tunes, play around with all the different configurations. But don't do that at the beginning, please. For your own good. Okay, where were we? Minor 6. So let's say we have like G minor 6. Okay, it's right here. Right? We have the 6 on the bottom here, and then here. You can also do the roots, right? But this is not rootless. But again, if it's in the way, I mean, it's just a whole step difference. But there you go. What about, let's say, E? Okay, so E minor 6. So if it takes you a while to build it, find your essential tones. And minor 6, we have the 5th and the 9th. And boom. Now, sometimes you don't use both inversions equally. For like E minor 6, this is what I'm doing. Or this, but this is the rootless option, right? I don't ever really do this one. Well, it's not bad. It's just that when you start getting low, you know, right? So for D minor 6, I'm never doing this. Like ever. I'm gonna do this one. Okay? Well, I might do this one up here, but why? I have this one readily available, and if I could keep things in this kind of range here as much as I can, I'm gonna do that. Right? So keep that in mind. If I'm trying to make things interesting and make melodies, and yeah, I'll jump around. Like if I'm going from D minor, then I'll do something like that, you know? So that's D minor 6, going to an E7, E altered. We'll get to this one. To A minor. But functionally, stay around this middle range, I think, for a while. Okay, next we have dominant chords. I want to talk about 2 types of dominant chords to do here. We have our dominant 13th, which is classic. It's actually the same as the D minor 6, okay? We have the essential tones, then we have the 9 and the 13. Boom. I don't ever do the type B for this. Yeah, generally, like I said, I keep things like around this G. Then sometimes I go there, sometimes, but most of the time, like every time, I just play G7 like this. Right? Because here's way too low. Excuse me. But there you go. So here's C, C13, C13 up here. This is a little high. I don't really ever do that one up here. It's good to know them. I think you need to know them. But just also know you're not going to use them all equally. Okay? But yeah, that's about it for our dominant chords. Let's do some more examples. F, I do use both because this range is really common. And you'll see a lot of parallel. Like this F13 is the same as C minor 6. This is all related to the melodic minor modes. We are not going into that today. That's a whole rabbit hole. But yeah, there you go. Let's talk about the other dominant, which is altered dominance, okay? G13. If you flat the 9 and 13, you get G. Altered, so that's a flat 13 and a flat 9. But there's another way to do altered. Sharp 9 and flat 13. This one, I only ever do it here. I don't do this. It's just too high. Maybe I'm making a melody. Okay. But yeah, type B here. Got the flat 7, and this is the type A. And you could also have the flat 9 on top. That's the other configuration. Okay. So that's about it. Let's try another one. So like C altered, okay? So this right here, got our essential tones, flat 13, sharp 9. And you can make this melody where you go from here to the flat 9, resolve to F major, right? Bum, bum. That kind of thing. And then here, I do this sometimes. But good to know, right? And resolve to our F major. Do that one there. And then there's some other ones you might want to know. For example, just like this purely diminished thing. So this is like G7 flat 9, right? We don't have a 13. Yeah, so know these two. These are good to know. So like a 2-5 on would be like D minor, G7 flat 9. There you go. Or you can do G altered. Or just plain old G13. All right. And then finally, let's talk about half diminished. Half diminished is a little tricky. So let's say we have B half diminished, okay? So the stock way to do this is actually just to move that third up to the fourth. And you might be wondering, there's no third. Yeah, there's no third. So what? Okay. Here's how you want to think about half diminished when it comes to jazz. It's really just a 2 chord in disguise. So if we're in the key of C, the 2 chord is D minor, okay? The 7 chord is this B half diminished. But that's really, that we played in root position. That's really just like 2 minor 6. So we use the same voicings. And that's how we end up with this one, which is the same as the D minor 6. Right? And there you go. So here I'm doing and so this one doesn't really have a type A and type B. Well, it does, but it gets a little spicy. If you put the third in the bottom and you want to add a 9, it would be the natural 9, okay? It's a little spicy, isn't it? And if you want the 7th in the bottom, honestly, I mean, you could do this. Bill Evans actually does this quite a bit in his Alice in Wonderland. He does this and he moves it around. I guess you could do this, but this is not really considered stock. Half diminished, literally, you can even just do this, right? If you want that third in there. But no need, you could do that 11 instead. But again, just think of it more as a D minor 6. And we got got our E altered, right? Essential tones, flat 13, sharp 9, making that melody going from the sharp 9 to the flat 9, A minor. Okay, so in a nutshell, that's about it when it comes to these one-handed voicings. I know we spent the most time on the rootless voicings because, well, there are a few more configurations than the other ones, but that doesn't mean you need to sit there figuring this stuff out for hours and hours every day. What's important is just find something that you like, that works, stick to it, and get through many, many tunes. Just do the stock ones. I can't stress this enough because I get so many students who want to do all these rootless voicing drills and all the possible configurations, and they can hardly get through like 2 or 3 tunes. It's like, no, you need to get through songs first. Just do the functional stuff, okay? Do the stuff that works. And then once you can play, once you can speak, so to say, then, you can mess around with all the configurations and get really crazy with it. Go nuts, all right? So if you enjoyed this video and how I'm breaking all this down, how I'm talking about this and approaching this topic, consider joining Novu Jazz Academy. That's my online jazz academy, which features several courses, all jazz specific. And we get deep, all right? It's all about developing vocabulary. So I like to break things down really deep, the concepts, in a way that you can understand and digest, but most importantly, in a way that you can actually apply to jazz standards, okay? We are not here to just memorize concepts and memorize drills and exercises. We need to learn how to develop vocabulary in order for it to become part of our playing, all right? So, see you in the next video.